we have HDR Haven, and I want to use the Skylight Garage HDR that you can download for free from HDR Haven, by the way. And I want to go to the scene, and I want to add this here. And I want, for now, I want actually to, no, we can actually just use the normal IPR. So start interactive, right? So here it is, and it looks like shit, but I want to, first of all, I want to add the override so we get a black background. And we can increase the exposure a little bit, and I want to select everything but my wheels and just replace that with a physical material. Now I know for a fact that this is a bit buggy, so if I mean these windows, for example, they don't really have any depth, so I can't use glass materials on that one. And if I just add some shell material, a shell modifier to it, and then apply glass materials, I will just make a copy of this physical material and just make the, you can just load in like the glass preset. You can see that it's actually broken. Sometimes when you take in meshes from other softwares in 3ds Max, you get these issues where the geometry looks fine in the viewport, but they're actually not. So you can see here that the front is kind of, you have smoothing groups, but on the back you don't, which is kind of weird. So that means that there's some weirdness with the model. So what we can do to fix that actually is to add a mesh smooth with 0 iterations. And then if we add a shell on top of that, we should now have a working model. So that is a trick to almost all like model issues you may have in 3ds Max. When the geometry looks weird to render, or you can't get like smoothing groups working, even if you add turbo smooth to it, the smoothing groups may not actually work properly. And then what you do is add a mesh smooth with 0 iterations, and then the mesh is usually fixed. But since this is a car window, we can add some tint to it. So we can go to, I think we can go to here and just add, I think, absorption color. Just make this a little bit greenish, like that. I mean, that looks pretty good. It shouldn't be like too obvious, but it should still be there. And we can just add a little bit of dispersion to it. So, I mean, this is almost too much already. So 99.7 maybe. I don't actually think, maybe it's not even happening anything, but okay, we'll leave it as that for now. Let us make some car paint. So first of all, I'm going to just select all the pieces that I want to have car paint on. Oh, by the way, I want to delete these chrome details here as well. So that one and that one. Okay, I don't want that on my resto mod. So here are all the pieces with car paints. So let's make a basic car paint material that looks good. So I want to have a Corona physical material. By the way, Corona is like really slow, at least on my Threadripper. It is really slow on switching between materials and stuff. So bear with me, please. So I want this to be metallic, all right? And I want to lower the roughness a little bit. And I want this to be actually black, but if I make it completely black, there will be no reflection. So I can't have it completely black. So something like this. Also, by the way, I want to go to the render settings. And I want to turn off noise reduction for IPR. That's like the stupidest fucking thing ever. Come on, yeah? Yeah, here we go. So far, so good. And I want to have a clear coat, so let's apply that. I want to have 1 and 0 roughness. The IOR, we can increase that a little bit if we want to have some stronger, more punch in the reflections. And I want to have a bump map here because naturally you have some orange peel. So let's make a bump map, and I just want to have a normal noise. Where are you? There you are. Noise map. Oh, sorry, that's the base bump. I need it in the clear coat bump. So we can increase this quite a lot, like that. And then I want to have another one. Just plug that in here and make this like really small. Mix those. So I want to have a Corona mix. I want to have that one there and that one there. And I want to change this to mix, I believe. Make it a little bit easier to control. So now I have 70% of the small wrinkles or the noise, but I also have 30% of the big ones. So what I have to do now is to reduce the intensity of these. So I can go down here to, here, bump. You don't want to have it like too much, or I don't want to have it too much. But you can see here now that it looks looking pretty good. Maybe we can actually have more of the big one. Yeah, so you can see the big one kind of adds these like bigger waves. You don't want too much of that either, though, because, I mean, if it's a somewhat talented car painter who's been doing this, then it should be looking pretty good as it is. So you can see here now, by the way, when I added the turbo smooth, I get these effects here. So that's what I mean. You have to have a mesh smooth with 0 iterations, and I can collapse this, and now I can use the turbo smooth as I usually would. Okay, so here we have a basic non-metallic car paint, but I do want to have a metallic car paint. Actually, first what I want to do, I have a bitmap here, and this is from Texture Supply, I think. Yes, no, this is one of my own that I made long ago. So I want to have this in the clear coat roughness. So I have to, if I just apply this here, the mapping will be completely fucked up. And I haven't UV mapped the car, and I don't want to do that. So what I will use instead is the Corona triplanar. So I just connect that one here and have the color, the texture there. And now triplanar will apply the texture to a global scale. So if you change anything in here, that will just multiply everything. So in the triplanar map, I have this to set to 100 centimeters. So now that means that the width of the texture is now 100 centimeters. If I now go and change this, then there would be 50 centimeters. Or if I actually change the real world scale, it will also be like 50. Now that's actually 200 centimeters. Leave these at default 1 if you want the triplanar mapping to work properly. So now I can set whatever distance I want here. So maybe I want something like that. And we can maybe actually, if I go to the color map here, I just want to make sure that we have maxed out the texture, the effects of the texture. So maybe something like that. I'm also realizing that I must invert this, which also probably means that I need to, no, that was actually good. Okay, so we can do like that. And then I want to go here and I want to reduce the clear coat roughness to something that is like barely visible. Actually, I think I want to turn this off. Yeah, I think I do. And then we can just increase this instead. So this is, I mean, I will play with that. When I built this material the first time, I spent like 2 nights on it. So don't rush it. We will play with this. I think we have a nice basic car paint here now. So if I look around on the car, it looks quite nice. Now I want to have the metallic, or in other words, the flakes. And I want to put this into a Corona layered material, like that. And for the layered material, I want to have another physical material. I had to go and get myself some snacks. Nom. All right. So you will have to live with that I'm chewing in the microphone. Actually, that's kind of disgusting, actually. What the fuck am I doing? I will use some textures here. And I don't know if it actually matters in this case, but the textures are made usually for a glossiness workflow. So I will just change this material to glossiness. And I want to make this like a darker gray color. I want this to be metallic, maybe 0.8 glossiness for now. So quite glossy. All right, and I want to have a clear coat layer, and I want to have the same settings for this one as for the other one. So I want that, and I want the clear coat bump as well, which we did set to 0.03. And the reason for I'm doing just the same kind of clear coat to this one is because when I'm mixing these two later on, I just don't want the clear coat to be affected really. So here I now have 3 bitmaps, and I think these are from Jeff Patton. So I have a flake material that is just various colors. And then I have this one, which is just a roughness map, I guess. And then this one that is the normal map. And let's start with the normal map actually. So I want to have this as a normal. And one thing that is really important is that you, again, check the gamma input up here. Otherwise it will not work properly. And I also want this to be a triplanar, right? And I want to connect this into the base bump. And triplanar, I do not want this to be 100 centimeters, but we can zoom in here just to see what happens. And you can see we got our flakes here. But I want this to be maybe 15 centimeters, or actually probably smaller, like 10 centimeters. Also, I want to mention something. when you have blurring enabled in your textures, now I set this to 0.1, but if you have it to 1, you might not actually see a difference here, but if you move out, if you zoom out here, it will eventually disappear or be like sampled away. It didn't do that right now, but that is because I have changed something. I have went into the render setup and I've gone to system settings here, and you can change default normals filtering. I've set this to none. If you set this to linear, for example, your textures will be filtered away. So if you have this to none, then the blurring here will not do any difference. So if you have problems in Corona with maps or effects just disappearing when you zoom out, the filtering is wrong. You have to change that. So anyway, here we have that. I also want to have the color. So I want to have this as a triplanar as well, set to the same value, of course, as this one. So if it says to 10 centimeters, I need this to be 10 as well. And then what happens if I plug this into the base color? Boom. Okay, that's quite nice, but it's a little bit too much, right? So maybe I can go in and add a color correct, and I can just reduce the saturation here, but it'd be like minus 0.5 or something. So you still get the colors, just not as much. All right, I think this looks good. I think this is quite nice. Maybe the normals is too big. Yeah, we'll see. We'll of course have to adjust this later on again. And we also have this glossiness map. And again, I want to have this in a triplanar. Set this to 10 centimeters. I can, by the way, connect these two, so I don't have to change the scale on everyone. I just don't really... I think there's a smarter way to do it. I can do it with additional parameters if I want to. But let's not dive into that now. So let's just reduce this to, I don't know, 30 or something. So this kind of adds a very nice effect here. If I turn this off, it kind of disappears in the black areas. But if I turn it on, then it adds glossiness everywhere. So I get a nice coverage of these flecks. And again, I can probably increase the IOR of the clear coat here. Yeah, so to the same as this one. So now if I apply the Corona layered material and I reduce this to like 30%, I now have a quite nice car paint with flakes. And this is looking quite gorgeous actually. If I let's go back here. Maybe I can reduce it to 20 if we think this is too much. But I think this is beautiful. What if we go down here to this spot here? This is where we have the spotlight and some nice curvature. I mean, look at this. Just beautiful. It's not very fast to render, I'll say that, but it is looking quite beautiful. And another thing I want to do is to add a third layer here, and that would be a physical material as well. And I can just start this render so I can see what I'm doing. Beep, boop, boop, boop. And I want to make this some like dirt color, like something like that maybe. And then here I have, I think this is the one. Yes, just a splotches or specks map. And I want this to be triplane as well, of course, and not the tile map. Triplanar, and this might actually be 100 by 100. Now there's one interesting thing, and that is why this... Oh, because I put it on the wrong mask. Okay, so there it is. And now maybe we should just play with the output amount here, just to increase the strength of it, so you can see now that we're really getting them. So maybe that is too much. But these things are like, you know, you just adjust this along the way always. Because it might look good in one angle and then you switch and then it doesn't look good anymore. So then you just have to adjust it to whatever you're doing. So it's like a never-ending process. I think this looks pretty good. And now if I zoom out, this paint, why I like this paint is because it's quite modular. By the way, I got a question before on Instagram, like why did I actually use the clear coats in the materials instead of having the clear coat as a separate layer? And I guess you're actually, in reality, if you were matching the so-called hierarchy of paints in reality, oh, my webcam died. Anyway, then you would have a separate layer for clear coat. But I just think, you know, why the clear coat function here is just perfectly usable. So why having another layer for no reason at all? If I want to change this color, I like this color, I'm gonna save that, but then I can, you know, easily make this black and it works just as well as black. Well, I can make it white and it works just as well. I can make it any other color. So that's why I like this car paint, because it's so easy to change colors and to make it look good. Looking nice. Maybe you would like to bring back the color a little bit in the flakes. But here, yeah, here's definitely too much. So no, I don't want to do that. And another thing I like with this, because I said this is a modular car paint. So if I go to this base material here, and I change the glossiness to 0.2, you know, I get a less metallic paint. It's still like flakes, but it's more like normal paint. And then I can go to this one, and I can just remove the flakes if I want to, just put this to 0, and I have a very normal car paint. But I can also make this super metallic by increasing the glossiness to like 0.8, and now you see we get a completely different result. So from one single material, you can do a whole lot of variations, and that is why I love this material setup. So I just want to paste back my color there, and I want to reduce this to 0.6, 0.4, you know, 0.5, depending on what effect that I want to have. So this is beautiful. And now you can see here the clear coat, dirt map in the clear coat is coming along nicely and adding some nice details to this. You can see it here. You can also see it up here a little bit. It's like these like super subtle effects, but if you zoom out, you can see them being there. It just takes a little while to render, but once you just give it some time, all these details will pop out. Yeah, my webcam died. But that was it, and you know, in the next video, at least in the next videos in this series, I will not care as much about materials, but I will actually start trying to do some resto mod stuff to this car. So I will do some adjustments to the car, like the body, and then start adding skirts and stuff. And I don't really know what it will look like. I don't really have a vision for it yet, but I think that it will just grow once we like start playing with it. It'll just, you know, grow on to me. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.